So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Switch Hour. Today we have our first guest and a very good friend of mine, Leke. So, welcome to our platform.
Yes.
Man?
Welcome, man.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
All right. So, basically, Leke is here to talk to us about a project that he's recently started. But before we get into that, we kind of want to cover a bit of Leke's background just to give the viewers at home some kind of some motivation to be able to understand his mindset and where he's coming from and where he is at the moment with what he's doing. So we'll start from there. Um, Obviously, I know you're Nigerian.
Yeah.
You came to the UK quite young, about 12 years old, maybe, which is kind of around the same age as us lot in here as well. So
Exactly.
the only difference is we grew up in London, but you grew up in Birmingham. So what was that like for you?
Very very tough actually. Like for me, which I'll come back to in a second. Like, and it links to why I started Black Valley, as well. So growing up in Nigeria, I grew up with my grandparents. My mom was working in Saudi Arabia as a nurse. So growing up with your grandparents back home, it was a very like family house. So what I mean by that, you had like uncles, aunties, grandchildren will come around and stuff like that. So I had a big family around me. And I came to the UK because my mom got a new job in the UK because she wanted our family to join her, I guess. But Saudi Arabia, the system there was a bit difficult because it wasn't an English speaking country. So if I was to join her there, I would need her to learn Arabic or go to a private school. So it was more for the sake of getting our family to join her. She moved to the UK. So I came to join her in the UK and it was tough. So when I was 12, like Edwin said, and if you guys probably remember, that's the age when you're going to year seven.
Yeah.
So I came in March, and most people already made their friends then. So you imagine this kid from Africa, as I said back then, coming into year seven, people asking you, oh, you guys live in trees, those sort of questions.
Stereotypical.
Yeah, so it was difficult. Trying to fit in was difficult, obviously the accent as well. And back then, unlike now, it wasn't cool to be African, You wanted to be Jamaican if I'm honest. So long story short, it was tough.
Yeah. I think that sounds quite similar to us as well. But obviously, even though it wasn't in London, it's still the same kind of challenges. So from that point on, how did you kind of manage to deal with those challenges then?
I would say I didn't. So I actually struggled to fit in school. So what I mean by that is I didn't really have any friends like you, like people that were close friends. Bear in mind I came from an environment where my best friend lived across the road from me. We grew up together. His mom knew my mom, his dad knew my dad and things like that. So coming to the UK where and I stayed in a council flat, neighbors were like all white, neighbors were very nice actually to be fair comparing to other neighbors, but it wasn't a case of just knocking on the door and I'm going to the house, which is what I was used to. So I struggled with that, and I think for me, as a result of that, you try to fit in, and the best way you try to fit in is by acting the way you feel like it will help you fit into like a culture. And I felt like the UK back then, it wasn't cool to be clever, it wasn't cool to be smart. Whereas back in Nigeria, I was like a fairly smart smart kid, but I came here, I was like, what, to fit in, I need to try and play up to an image that wasn't really me. So I used to like be the joke of the class, try and make jokes just to fit in and make some friends. So you play that role for a while, which doesn't really feel like you. I think I did that till probably about year 10, year 11. Struggled a lot. When I say struggled a lot, I mean like I had friends around me back then, that people that you could call friends, but looking back at it, they weren't really my people. They were just people I hang around, to pass time sort of thing. And that went on, you were, getting into trouble on the verge of being kicked out. And then it came to that point where you need to make a choice about what you wanted to do in the future, whether you wanted to go to college or whatnot. And then I was speaking to these people that I thought, no, are my friends, about what they wanted to do. And they didn't really care. And they're coming from an African household, that wasn't really an option. So it was just a case of like, I felt lost, because I've almost gone through life at this stage where I've played up to an image that wasn't me. And then I need to make a choice about career. And I didn't know who I was or what that looks like. So it was quite a confusing age, really, if I'm honest. But to one thing happened that was accidental, but at the same time were like very transitional in my life. So my parents were very religious Christian. There was a guy that happened to come to our church. He was studying at live in Birmingham. He was going to be studying at University of Birmingham, and he came to our church and he needed a place to stay. As a result, they took him in.
Your parents?
Yeah, they just for him to like save money and accommodation or whatever. But that was good for me actually, because it meant I saw someone that I could relate to an extent. In terms of there is another black guy that had ambition of being a doctor, and he would study all night and stuff like that. So he kind of like started saying stuff to me about asking me those questions that maybe I was already asking myself, but I wasn't quite sure what direction to go in terms of what do you want to do with your life. And it's like, oh, I don't know. It's like, oh, have you thought about going to university? And I'll be like, nah, like I don't think it's for me, blah blah blah. Like, why not? Like, like, oh, I didn't really know. Like at that point in life, I wasn't thinking about university. It wasn't something that I felt like it was just for the like of me, which seems crazy if you know me now and you see me now. Like, but he kept saying stuff like, you can do it. I believe in you, whatnot. And at some point, I started, believing that story as well. I put my socks up, as you say. Did my GCSE. It wasn't great. I got like 4 Bs, 3 Cs, or whatnot.
So I haven't told you, man.
But from where I was coming from where I was, that was a major achievement in my life. And I think that kind of then became like my foundation for like, if you work hard, the reward is there really sort of thing. Yeah, so that was kind of the start really. And that was like a long answer.
No, it's good. It's good because again, this is Mind Switch Hour, so we try to understand the mindset of the individual and at what point they started making those decisions to change their mind. So I think based on what you just said, it seems that even though your parents were there, they were not necessarily the ones that were providing that guidance in that way.
Yeah.
But it seems that having this other person in your house,
Yeah.
did you realize that? Like, did it click in your mind that this is what was happening, or was it something that you kind of realized later on?
That's a good question. I was going to ask the same thing as well.
I think that's a good question. I think life has a strange way of like coming together, doesn't it? Like my parents were great, and they are still great in terms of like they were very supportive, but they didn't understand how to deal with this kid that why you get in trouble. We take you to church every Sunday. Why can't you just behave? Okay, you need to make a choice with your life now, and in a funny way as well. Like I wasn't like not in a bad way. I wasn't proud of my parents. You have what's it called, open evening at school, open day, whatever. And
Parents' evening.
Parents evening. That's the word. I didn't want my parents to come for some reason. Like at that age, nah, you guys stay at home, sort of thing. So
you get the letters and then
but it was that mentality. But they, they really tried, but I just couldn't at that point in time relate to their sort of advice and the things they were like telling me to do.
This is good. 1 second, Prof, because you said at that time you wasn't there mentally.
Yeah.
See, what I want to know is what was going through your mind at that stage, because you said your parents were trying to come in and be, what they're supposed to be, but you kind of like was secluding yourself a little bit. Why was that?
I think a lot, so I wish I'll go back, probably going back and forth, but I did psychology at university, ended up doing psychology. So like your teenage years, like your formative years, like I was struggling with identity, that's what it was, as a kid in the UK trying to find himself, and you're still growing up, so I've got all those changes going on, trying to find out who I am, who I want to be, and I've got my parents that have this African mentality, not to their fault, in a culture that's different to what I'm seeing when I go to school or what my friends talk about. So so there was that clash definitely, and I don't think even though I had this very strong upbringing, like with my grandparents and loving family and all that stuff, like there was almost like a fight into like, okay, this is what's going on at home, this is what's going on at school, and we're just going back and forth really. I don't know if that answers your question.
Because I think all of us kind of like, I know me definitely, I went for the same stage of kind of finding myself once I got here again, because like you said, back home you're used to having this big family. You can go to anyone at any point to talk to. But once you come over here, like the culture change is very different. So you kind of have to find your way again. But go on, I know Pops wanted to.
Yeah, go on, Nasser.
Actually, the question I wanted to ask, you have kind of given a general description of the challenge you faced physically going to school. Do you think that affected you academically in school? Was it challenging for you while in class? Did you find that challenging
Oh,
at that
definitely.
stage?
Like I didn't really study from like year 7 to year 11. So what I mean by that is like I was just messing about. So like even up to year 11, like it's what I knew from Nigeria. My maths was what I knew from Nigeria. Like to put into perspective, I won't say like I'm the most cleverest person, but Nigeria used to see like it's called like a common entrance exam. I did really well there. I got into like a top state school. So and when I came to like year 7, like the maths they were giving me felt like child's play. If I'm like like compared to what I was doing back then, like they was doing arithmetic, I was doing like simultaneous equation like back home already. So and we didn't get there to like year 9 in the UK. So I was just living on that really, so it was kind of easy. So my focus wasn't necessarily education. It was just about fitting in and making friends, like or what I felt like, okay, this is important because like I was a bit of I did feel a bit alone. I had friends at church as well, don't get me wrong. But again, I think as a kid you kind of want something else. Like for me it was like, okay, I wanted like to be with the popular kid at school. I wanted to be with who I saw as the cool kids and be one of them really, because I was still finding myself. And I think when you are finding yourself, you kind of like picture who you want to be. And then for me it was I wanted to be the cool kid, so I was just and the cool kids were when I got into trouble. So and being black, actually maybe something I should mention as well. So my parents tried actually. So when I first came to the UK, I went to a very rough school because of the area that I grew up in Birmingham. Like the school wasn't great. Pretty much everyone that migrated to the UK from Sudan, Somalia, Africa, Pakistan, they all go to that school, which wasn't a bad thing, but
Sounds like our school.
Put them all in there.
yeah. So so like I mean, it was so bad that when I came to the UK, I thought Asians were white people, like like it was because that's all I saw around me, sort of thing. But my and I wasn't really enjoying that school as well. There was probably not likely like bullying, but I think I just to leave that school, I kind of not made that up, but I just wasn't liking the school really. But my mom did all she could to get me into a better school, and the better school that I ended up going was like mostly white. So this is like we're talking year 8 now, which I changed school. So like so you have that identity problem, find myself as a young man, period, which is difficult. And then you have the identity problem trying to find your feet as a young black man growing up in a predominantly white school. So like that was a very big struggle.
How did you insert yourself then? Because now you're in a place where, as you said, predominantly white guys.
Yes.
How did you insert yourself to make sure people realize, okay, this guy is one. Fair enough, he's from a different place, but
so that was the challenge, because automatically you became cool by being black, simply like So I had to live up to the idea of being cool, which is from what they know, not for their own. Sometimes it's like they saw like American rap, things like that. So to me, then I had to become this person that they saw as cool for me to maintain. And like you don't want to be found out, right? At that age, like like I wasn't cool, like but I
couldn't rap either.
I couldn't rap either, exactly. Anyway. So but I had to keep. I was almost like I didn't want to be found out, right? So the way to maintain this personality was to be loud in class, to be a joker. I'm comfortable speaking anyway, so I think I played up. And luckily one of my good friends then, so there's probably 3 black people in my year. My friend and a mistress kid. I won't say the name, but they were probably we're the only black male in the school. There was another black girl actually. That tells you how not diverse that school was. I could name the black people in my year. But like so, me and my black friend, we were automatically cool. I was good at football as well. Actually, that was like a saving grace. So every lunchtime I was on the AstroTurf. But I don't know if I told everyone this actually. There was a time where happy slapping was popular. I don't know if that was a thing in London.
That was a thing.
So police popular year 10. So obviously you do with your friends, right? But I was with a group of white people. And I probably didn't do it. Like I was just in the group. So they would do the happy slapping. Me and my friend would get into trouble because it was like the black kid was there. It wasn't hard to run their way. So and that happened over time where I wasn't a great, well-behaved. I won't say play the race card like the school were racist, but at the same time I don't think the school they didn't know how to deal with it properly. So the problem I was getting into most of the time wasn't my fault. There was actually an incident like that I got suspended for, which is one about year 11, which is when I got like it started feeling like this kid was going out of that it was getting lost really. Like so there was a kid, like I won't say his name again, but this kid used to piss me off. Like it was just one of those like kids that would like, yeah, funny guy, but like it was just the little things like
Push
so.
your button.
Yeah, so like for example, okay, this is the age I'm still figuring myself out. Edwin knows I'm quite into my fashion, so at this stage, I think I had the Air Force One. I used to have those Nike TN, but this kid would just like kept touching my cap for no reason and stuff like that. And there was a time we were working, so by year 11, I don't know if they did this in London, we were allowed to go into town. My school wasn't far from the city centre. Okay. So we were allowed to go into city centre, right? And me, my group of friends then, and we're going to city centre. This kid was technically among my group of friends, but I wasn't really close to him. We were just pushing my boy, like, playing with my heart, whatever, throwing on the floor. And bear in mind, again, the context I've given you that this was a predominantly white area. Sometimes they will probably use languages that are very, demeaning to like black people. And I wouldn't say it's through the fault of their own, because they didn't really understand the black culture. Like, that's what they knew as well. So this kid like threw my out, and I was like, don't do that again. If you do that again, like we're gonna have to like square off sort of thing. And he did it again. I was like, you know what, like allow this, like just pushed him back or whatever. Before I knew it, everyone, like, me and this kid was squaring up, and before I knew it, after school, everyone's saying I'm fighting this kid. It wasn't my plan, but like the stories go around the whole school. Like, Leke and this kid, they're gonna fight, right? Like city center, blah blah blah. And so obviously you had this situation where it felt like I was repping for being black now, not just like I'm fighting for myself. I need to fight for my blackness in a way. Got into a fight with this school, and honestly speaking, like it was probably like we probably landed the same amount of punch on each other, but because I'm black, you didn't see anything. But this kid looks like it's been a war. Like literally came to the school the next day, his like eyeballs were dropping out. Like, but it wasn't because I was landing that much. It was a fair fight. We were just fighting, like, the kids started the fight. Bear in mind, before I knew it, like the police got involved. There was talks of GBH and whatever. Like, bear in mind, like this kid started the whole thing, but it looked worse because again the color of his skin, and and little stuff. But obviously, my parents, got called into school. They're getting frustrated at this point. So little stuff like that. Again, I'm not gonna say I'm innocent all of this, but I just felt like there were things that maybe the situation I find myself being a young black man, I couldn't really help.
Just to pick up one thing you just described on there, you spoke about fighting and stuff. Obviously, at that age, it's a good age for kids to join to some sort of groups or gangs and stuff like that. How do you divert yourself away from that? Because certain kids, when they start getting bullied and fighting, they feel like, especially if their parents are not that supportive, they feel like they need to turn to a gang, a group of people to support them. How did you deal with that yourself?
I was very lucky. I think I would have.
How do you escape that state?
My parents didn't let me out of the house that much, so I would have joined one if I the way I was feeling quite lost at that age. I wanted like a people around me. If there was a gang that I could have joined at that age, I would have joined one. What I mean by that, for example, was so I grew up in Ladywood. I'll say that in Birmingham. So Ladywood is known to be quite rough in Birmingham, right? Probably not as bad, probably the equivalent of Peckham back then in London. So in my neighborhood, like again, they were very accepting. Like you have kids riding around bikes and stuff like that, and some of them selling drugs as well. Like I wanted to be among those kids, but my parents just didn't let me out of the house. So there'll be scruffs. Like I've one of my biggest regret actually, I've been like a physical fight with my dad, like at that age, like so it's crazy, right? Because if you see me now, you're like, nah, like
I never thought I've known this guy this long. I didn't think he knew all these things, But something though, I think is good that you mentioned that your parents didn't let you out of the house, because I think African parents, at least from my experience, one of the things that they're good at is being able to be strict on their kids. Do you know what I mean? To be like, no, you're not doing, and they're very firm on that. But obviously, because they didn't grow up here, the challenges that, us coming here as young kids, the challenges that we face, sometimes they're oblivious to it, or they just don't understand it, or we feel like they don't understand it, so we don't try to explain that, to them. But I think is a good thing that you mentioned that at least your parents didn't let you out of the
No,
house. At
yeah.
least they were aware of something, you know. So
Yeah.
so that's a good thing. But I think just kind of to get a bit more away from that and more into the Black Valley.
Yeah.
Because I think a part of that comes down to, you know, having someone around you who can provide you that guidance and so on. So obviously as a young as a teenager or as a young man, you're making these mistakes because you're trying to find yourself, but you also don't have that person around you. So in your case, I guess that then comes down to mentorship, which I think that's what Black Valley is. So maybe you can just explain what Black Valley actually is.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's funny that you mentioned that. So I think Black Valley, so like with any founder, like their journey as a person relates to wherever they start. So Black Valley as a company is probably like a combination of my journey as a person, like figuring out who I am and like feeling like all the skill set that I've developed over the years then helped me like to be able to create this idea. So what I mean by that, for example, you know, I told you about this guy that was struggling with identity growing up and struggling with being black, if I'm honest, like being, not just being black, being an African, a black African, because there's different experience of blackness. So being a black African growing up in the UK was a struggle for me. And then, you know, there was this, you know, lucky relationship that grew between me and someone that was staying in my house. I just saw someone that was very ambitious. To kind of like then, you know, lead to Black Valley, what then happened was, you know, I believed in myself, start developing all this ambition based on speaking to this guy. At least I started watching like different videos about, you know, being the best that you could. At that point, I think I was listening to Tupac and things like that, like, you know, just little things that you're finding yourself, like, you know. Yeah, so cut long story short, I ended up going to university to initially actually. So I think this is important as well because you can't have Black Valley without all these little things happening. So I went to college to do A levels. So at this point, I was very focused now. So for the boy that was, you know, still trying to figure himself out, compared to this guy in college now that's literally like, I wanted to be the best like I could be, like in my field, like focused. Obviously, I still like to have fun. Like I'm a very, you know, jovial character, but I wanted to be the best I could be. So I went to college and now I'm doing like A levels in like chemistry, biology, psychology, and maths, AS. So bear in mind, like comparing to where I was coming from, so I'm like, okay, cool, I need to be the best I want to be. And then in my mind, I wanted to be a chemical engineer. Again, not because I knew what being chemical engineering was, but just because I felt like my dad was, you know, a chemical engineer by trade. So I thought, okay, cool. You know, that seems like a lot of money potentially that you could get from here. So to be a chemical engineer, what do I need to do? I need to take these A levels, right? But I didn't really have a clear idea of what that career looked like. I struggled with A levels, like AS, like I think I got like D's, E's, U's. Then like randomly on my AS, you have psychology, smashed it. Like I'm talking like A, B, like in all the little exams you're doing, right? But at this point, it wasn't clear to me, like, okay, there's probably something that you should look at into psychology, right? Because I had this idea of like, I wanted to be a chemical engineer. So carried on, I had to drop maths because I think I got an E or something like that. So I dropped maths, did A level in psychology, psychology, chemistry, and biology. Result they came out, I got an A in psychology. Guess what? In chemistry, I think I got a D, and in biology, I got an E. Now, any common sense person will told you like psychology, that's your thing, right? But I'm like, nah, I need to be chemical engineer because like obviously I wasn't having this conversation with anyone. That's where I at. So like, at this stage, I didn't get into my university of choice. I wanted to move as far away as from Birmingham as possible, really. But luckily, I don't know why, because I think, you know, maybe if it did, I probably wouldn't be this focused. Because I think, you know, Eddy would tell you, brother, at uni, I was still, you know, still struggled to keep focused. But so I went to uni and did like a foundation year at Aston University because they had Aston University was very good back then anyway. I don't know about now in engineering, and they did a placement year as well, which what like attracted me. So you know, if you go onto a foundation course to then go into chemical engineering, I was in this foundation course, which is important as well because I met a friend of mine called Alex. The woman mentioned his name, and I'll come back to why I mentioned his name in a sec. So yeah, doing foundation degree to get into chemical engineering. So whilst doing the foundation degree, me and my friend Alex, we would like, you know, obviously we could relate to each other because he was Nigerian as well and a similar background, you know, and that's probably the first time now that I've met someone Obviously, I met people in church, but some of them grew up here, and like we just didn't really spoke about life like that. So Alex was the first person that we were able to just talk about life. You know, like I don't know if you ever knew that friend that you was just able to like
someone who got the same interest with
exactly
you,
like you know, like we had the same interest. Then there was the fun aspect that we like to do together as well. Like so, it was like we could stay focused, but we could still like just relax and enjoy life, right? So that was important as well at university. But Alex was very driven as well. Like I'm talking like studying like really hard, and I was doing the same thing. And it got so with the foundation degree. When you pass the foundation degree, you go into like first year of engineering, and I just got to the point. I looked at my life like, you know what? Do I want to be doing this thing for the rest of my life? Like I was actually doing okay at this stage because the drive was there, the determination was there. So I was working out. Me and Alex would study whatever, but I just looked at it like I don't want to be a chemical engineer. Like literally, it just clicked that you don't want to be a chemical engineer. So I just had and luckily probably the best decision I made in my life. I think it was I had a few conversations with some people I knew was in the psychology, and like I don't know what I'm gonna switch to psychology. And I kid you not, that was probably the best decision I made in my life because it was just like something switch. And what I mean by that is like I went on to my first year psychology. It's like it just felt like me. We had a conversation about like all the different topics in psychology. I could flow. Like, I was working hard, but it was like it wasn't like struggling. And there's a saying that I became familiar with back like if you put like a fish in water, what would it do? Swim. If you put like a monkey next to a tree, what would it do? It will jump or it will climb, right? But if you put them in different places, they will struggle, right? So I felt like a fish trying to climb a tree when I was in engineering. Like it was a struggle. I was working out though, like I told you I've got like a U in maths. That U wasn't lazy. Like I was working out, but it just didn't come to me naturally, right?
So what was it about psychology that kind of, because for many people, I don't know what psychology entails, but why is it about psychology and you that kind of go hand in hand? Because like you said, you've done so many subjects that you got a bad result in. But was that psychology that you always got a good result in? So what is it about you and psychology that kind of just match?
I just think it's the way we're wired. So like psychology is about understanding why we behave the way we do, and like looking at patterns in behavior that makes us act the way we do. For me, like even growing up in Nigeria, like I'm the kid, like so I didn't grow up in a very rich area. Like I'll walk down the street and I'll be looking like like no lights on the street, you could see the stars, and I'll walk down the street and I'm thinking about like life. I'm thinking about where does this star lead and things
Africa,
like that.
the stars are
So like for me, I like to like get lost in my own mind and think about stuff. And right now, it's like psychology allowed me to do that and explore that a bit further. And like I love stories, like African stories, because I grew up with my grandparents. Like those stories of like the tortoise and the elephant, proverbs and things like that. I love those stories because they had a lesson to it. And actually, psychology is not that different to that as well, because it's understanding like it just told in a different way, right? So to answer your question, I guess for me, it was just very natural. It just things that came natural to me, really.
So all of this links into Black Valley. Somehow.
Yeah. So I'll tell you why it links like to Black Valley. So when I started doing psychology now, I'm like, okay, cool. Like this feels like me. What can I want to be a clinical psychologist. So like now I still don't know what I want a picture of a career for myself. I want to be a clinical psychologist because it makes sense why you're doing psychology. What's the next thing you could do? What's the best thing a psychologist could do? It's a clinical psychologist. Remember, that's my mentality back then. And to be a clinical psychologist, I realized that actually you need to be good with people one-on-one, because that's what you're doing, right? You give people advice. So I signed up because back then as well, like I was confident like a group setting with friends or whatever, but when I'm meeting new people, I wasn't that confident like a one-to-one. Like I was aware that I had this African accent, might speak a bit funny, people didn't understand me, or if I had to like deliver a presentation, I was gonna struggle, right? But if you're a psychologist, you need to be doing that regularly. So it was something like selfishly, I needed to like get confident through myself and like deep end. So I became a mentor. So I signed up for this mentoring program. Funny enough, actually, it was in London. So like I applied for this role to be a mentor on a program called The Challenge. They've rebranded themselves now as NCS, National Student Service. So I signed up then, and the reason I signed up, selfish reasons, which was to be better at speaking to people, be better like So it will help me become a better
That's
psychologist. And I did that every summer whilst at university, but I loved it. Like, you know, you would basically give an idea of the program. You go away with a group of young people, like there'll be about 60 young people, and a mentor will have like, so I was a mentor of the program. You have 12 young people, and you do like stuff like rock climbing, abseiling. The young people were from different backgrounds. So you have rich young people, you have young people that are struggling in school, you have young people that with disability, but you're taking them this through this program over a 3-week period where they kind of find themselves. So it was almost like back to me. It's like me telling my young Leke that was struggling to find himself. I got a chance to kind of like give back to these young people and like help them find themselves. So I just fell in love with that, it really, and like
it's really important you said that. I don't want to miss this because that's really important. So you wanted to become something, and you saw a challenge. You said, okay, I'm not really confident in this, so I'm gonna find something that will help me overcome this obstacle. Like Johnson said, when he was looking for a job, he went into all these places to try and get experience, even if he's not paid. So I think this is really important to highlight. So if you have a struggle, if you want to achieve something, but you see something on the way, you kind of like have to find something to overcome that hurdle. It's really important you said that.
100%. And actually, like, so that journey wasn't straightforward. So when I first applied for the job, I like, you know, you had like a very much, like I said, I don't feel confident speaking in groups. So it was like those group interviews where, like, you know, they'll give you a task, you have to do a group exercise, you know, and obviously the confident people are smashing those sort of tasks, right? So I struggled a little bit. They didn't give me the job straight away, but they put me on a reserve. And I obviously I live in Birmingham. I got a call saying, you know what, like I think a few days to the program that we got a space in London. You want to take you on? So I had a choice to make, right? Rather to, you know, just to go for it. Like I'm not familiar with London, right? You know, traveling on tubes. As simple as that sounds, for someone that grew in Birmingham, traveling on tubes and stuff like that, like was like difficult, right? But I had to take that jump and be like, you know what, like I want to do this thing. So, but then that led to all the opportunities that I had afterwards because I went on this program. I became a mentor. Smashed it, like, you know, like, because it was natural to me. I loved it. Became a senior mentor, smashed it. Became assistant program leader, smashed it. Became a program leader, like in charge of like not just like young people but staff on the program as well. I loved it.
How quickly did you move through? Because that sounds like a lot of promotions.
So
in such a short
like
period of
so
time.
what I was doing every summer, like remember you like uni was like 3-4 years, right? So every summer, like I would do like 3-4 programs. So like, you know, just not just one program. I would do like 3-4 programs in each role. So I was mastering this role. I was mastering this like program, how they put it together. Bear in mind Black Valley is a mentoring program, so like you see where it's coming into place now, right? So I was mastering it. I was mastering, okay, how do you design a program? How do you, what makes a mentoring program works? You know, what do you need to put people through, right, to make this thing tick, you know, and get the right outcome? What wasn't working? What could have been improved? Because I'm working with different young people. I'm working with different mentors. I'm getting the feedback about, oh, this is great, but they could have done this better. This, you know, so like it was great. And then I finished my university degree. Again, still had the mentality, okay, I need to be a clinical psychologist. But actually, let me just work, because I love working for this organization. Let me just work for them 3 months in the sales role. So right now, my skill set started becoming obvious. I was great at speaking with people. I was great at telling the story. Like I was a good salesperson. Like, you know, so then these people wanted like someone, like a sales job came up with them, which is just like going to schools and recruit young people to come on this program. And I applied, got the job. I was meant to stay for 3 months, ended up there for 4 years of my life. But the reason I stayed for 4 years was every year there was some sort of promotion. So I felt like, you know, as like it was called like sales engagement. So you literally just go into schools, you present to young people. Bear in mind, this kid, I wasn't confident speaking in front of people. Now I'm speaking in front of people, telling young people in an assembly at 9 a.m. in the morning, telling a group of young people, like, you know, giving a presentation. Like that's something that was, if someone told me at that 16, like I was like forget that. That would be my biggest fear. But now comfortable doing that, right? Again, did the role for a year. Opportunity came to be like a sales team leader. So you leading a team and like you're responsible for an area. Applied for that, got that job as well. And then opportunity came to be like a like they call it the associate sales manager, so like pretty much like a sales manager. Applied for that as well and got it. So, but the key around how does that link to Black Valley now? So I've worked on the program, understanding like what it meant to like actually be a staff on a mentoring program and what makes the program work. Now I've recruited young people, so I understand this sales process from like, okay, this is what you put in place, this is what happens, and this is the system you put in place. And I've worked with like different core staff of the organization. I learned that, and then after that company, the role got made like there was when the organization are going through like restructuring, basically a term for like making redundancies, basically. But they went through exactly, they made some restructuring, and as a result of that, I didn't get to they based like they wanted me to apply for a role in London, which was nice, but because of the salary difference, like it didn't really make sense for me at that time, and I just bought a house as well, so it didn't make sense for me to like leave Birmingham. I just bought a house and then go rent in London. Like it just didn't make it. So I just like, you know what? Just give me my redundancy package. Whatever is in store for me is in store for me. Like, so luckily, I was like jobless for about 3 months. Again, whilst I was jobless, I was working in a mentoring program with a friend of mine has this company called MSH. Really cool company. They go into schools and they teach young people about resilience. So I started working for them as well. So it was like it was decent money. It was like, I'm not gonna say but like you get paid per hour, but for what you're doing, it was decent money, right? So even though I wasn't employed, I didn't feel it because I've got the redundancy money and I was making to be heavier money per hour. But the reason I'm saying this now, so Black Valley, like I said, is a mentoring program that allow Black people to access technology, like careers and within tech. So whilst I was looking for a job, I was just literally like on LinkedIn. Just LinkedIn easy apply, because I didn't really find anything I was like passionate about. And for me, it's important for me to do something that I feel like, okay, I'm passionate about this, and I'm comfortable saying that now because I realized, in life when I haven't been happy, maybe trying to be a chemical engineer or trying to be a clinical psychologist, was me trying to do things that maybe wasn't necessarily me. Like if I want to do something, I need to be able to give it 100%, and if my best come into something, like I do well at it, so I wanted to find a job that I could say, like I'm not just showing you up for you 9 to 5. I feel passionate about what you're doing, right? So I didn't find anything really like that me all the boxes, surprisingly.
Yeah, I just had a question that I'm kind of itching to ask. Obviously, listening to your story, I can see that your vision is always straight, no matter what challenge you face. But obviously, before you start this project, there's always a fear of failure. How do you manage that? I could see that obviously you spoke about that. Obviously, this couple of months that you was jobless, but you still, because your vision was straight up, and you still went ahead, which shows that you're really dedicated to this project. How do you manage the risk, the fear of failure? How do you handle that? Because we all face that before we start something, because we don't know if it's gonna be successful, will it work or it won't work. How did you deal with that yourself?
Good question. But before I answer the question, I get the time now, right? So Black Valley Day started after I lost that job. So there was a 2-year gap where I was working for a technology company before Black Valley. But the question of failure, I think, is still here now. You're always going to have that. We're humans. You have that fear of failure really constantly, and I still do with that today. But then you remember like your previous experiences. Like I remember, like I was even with doing psychology, even though my grades were good, I didn't feel like I was, because you have to write a lot in psychology. So I didn't feel like my English was good enough. So there was that fear of like, okay, even if I commit myself to doing this thing, they were marking my essays. Can I write a good enough essays? Because it's basic. Remember, I was coming from an engineering background where you don't really write essays like psychology. But I made that choice, right? And I realized actually it wasn't that bad. Like it wasn't a barrier. Or when I wanted to, apply for a job that required me speaking in public, I didn't feel comfortable with that. But after doing it, it wasn't that bad. So I guess the fear will always be there, but you face it anyway, because there's something in my back of my mind that tells me every time you face your fear, the reward is being better and you're not facing it.
That's a good message to our viewers.
So just focusing on Black Valley itself. So Black Valley is a mentorship program for young people, to get young Black people specifically to get into the tech industry, or to have access to the tech industry.
That's one way of looking at it. Okay. But I think there's a holistic approach. So going back to Black Valley itself, sorry if I've gone like a very long way, but I think I couldn't have done it justice without telling you the journey that I've had to go through before I get to this day. So Black Valley was actually started because of what happened in America with George Floyd. So I was like every other Black guy, that thing happened in America, and I just felt anger, and I felt very like, what that could have been me on the screen. And obviously remember like the way I felt when I was growing up in a predominantly going to school in a predominantly white area, like that unfairness, that injustice. So I was like, you know, why is this still happening? Like, why are we not doing something about this, right?
Yeah.
And it just really like got me thinking, okay, what can I do?
To make a change.
Yeah, using my skill set, and what's my skill set? Mentoring. What's my skill set? So I was after that organization. I was working for doing a sales job. I actually worked for a tech company for over 2 years, doing like a business development role. So now I've got like mentoring and tech role. So for me, the reason I stay at Black Valley actually is to tackle negative, what I see as like negative stereotype around blackness. And what I mean by that is whether we like it or not. So there's this idea in psychology that we all have like a sunglass that we see the world through, like a mirror that we see the world through. You might want to admit it, like, so, but that mirror is based on your experience of the world. So I grew up in Nigeria. I lived in Birmingham. So that, because of my background, that kind of like I see the world through that really. Like you know, you for example, you grew up in Ghana, Uganda, sorry, and then you live in London. You see the world through that. So those experiences. For someone that's white, you know, if they grew up in a predominantly white area, you know, suburbs maybe, they see the world through that. It's like Facebook, for example. You know, sometimes on Facebook you see like, oh, you feel like all your friends agree with you. It's because you guys have this similar interest. Or if you're on Twitter, most thing that you see on your timeline is related to what you probably say or the way you think. So with Black Valley, I understood that from my psychology experience. Actually, you know what? The problem around racism, I'm not saying this is the only solution, is because people see the world through their experience.
Okay.
But those experience, you can't judge them for that. It's not like, you know, I can't judge you for your experience because I didn't have your experience.
Yeah.
So if someone that's white, you know, doesn't understand what it's like being black, you can't judge them for that. But the only way you could change that is to challenge the negative stereotype around blackness. So if we have all this rap video that, you know, that depicts black people as, you know, gangsters, you know, even like when I was growing up, I saw black people as that. I can't judge you for having that stereotype. What I could do is present to you something that challenges that. So for example, white tech, you know, we're using technology now. On your phone is technology. If you go on a website, it's technology. So tech is a way, a medium then, to challenge people's stereotype. Imagine going on a website and you see a positive image of a black person. So I work for a education technology company, and we did something that where, you know, when you go on the website, it was like a picture of a black family. That's powerful, right? Because, you know, you've got a black parent teaching their kids you know, homework, because we're an homework setting company. So little stuff like that, we will start to challenge people's stereotypes. So that was kind of my idea. So how could I then over time? So it's not like an immediate solution. This is like the first step really to kind of like challenge stereotype in the long run. The other benefit of like trying to do this through tech is a well-paid role. Tech is where the future is at. So what I mean by that in terms of like wealth creation. So before, you know, you talk about like the different areas of like money making. You know, you had your your Iron Age, whatever. You know, then you had your like now with people's like, you know, it's like data age, right? So the money's making data. So all your big companies now, you know, like Ford, no one remembers where Ford is, but back before, like Ford was like a big company, right? Your big company now like Facebook, Microsoft, your Amazon, tech companies, like data creating companies. But most of those founders or most people that work in this industry are white males. And again, like, I don't think we could say, well, that's unfair, but it's because they have access to that, right? So if all of us in the room, like, I'm working in this industry, oh, this industry is well paid, you know, this is how you get into that road. You apply, right? And you keep growing. But right now, there isn't enough black people working within tech. I think in the UK, like, there's not even a data for like black people working in tech in the UK. There's a data for BAME, which is different. So BAME is Black, Asian, minority ethnic background, right? But there's not a specific data for black people. With BAME is 4% compared to like the normal workforce, which is low in itself.
The question I got is, fair enough, what you got a great idea, right? But what if I'm a person that want to maybe sponsor you, like the organization that you have, but due to the fact that it is predominantly for black people, I might feel some sort of way, you know, giving my money out to support. So how do you overcome that kind of challenge? Because you will have as you say, you're going into a place where it's predominantly the white people.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm gonna go through a the program, and then at the end of the day, once I finish the train or the course, get a job from a white business or wherever, it will be a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, so how would you overcome, you know, that crossover?
I don't think
You
we
know?
need to. I think we don't need to. We don't want like who you take your money from is who you answer to in a way. So
Okay.
if we're taking money from those sort of people,
Mm.
then it's the wrong place to take money from. If that's the way they see the world, right? That's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah.
But you are right though.
Yeah.
There's probably some companies or some individuals
Oh.
because of that they want to engage with us.
Yeah.
That's fine. They know our audience. It might take us a bit longer than other people to get funding or to get more money. And you know, we've defined what we want to tackle as an organization. We've defined the people that want to help. We've identified a problem. So for me, any entrepreneur or any founder, a good business solves a problem. We're solving the problem of lack of diversity within tech. You know, and for me as well, actually. So I think it's important to have authentically black spaces. So there are spaces where, like, you know, they're doing similar things that we're doing, and everyone on the team is black. So for example, I'm like a sole founder, so it's just me that actually created Black Valley. But the mentors on the program are from different backgrounds. So I have mentors that are black, I have mentors that are white, I have mentors that are Asian. So for me, that's important as well, because there's something special happening, because there's integration that's happening. Remember what I said earlier around our experiences.
Yeah.
So if this mentor that's white and, you know, have a black person that's really passionate about the industry, and they're having like conversation every week with this black person, like that's already solving the problem. Like, you know, they're gonna go to their family, their friends, and be like, oh, what do you get up to this week? You might like go, oh, by the way, I was trying to like Jonathan, which is an example, like, you know, he's like a young black man, or you know, he's a black guy interested in software engineering, he knows this, he knows that. That conversation is impacting the way they're perceived, like young black people or black people in general. So for me, I think yeah, so the vision is really big, but like Edwin said, the stage that we're at now, we're running our first cohort program. So there's only 20 people, 20 black people on the program. And what that looks like is an 8-week immersive program. So every week there's something going on for those group of 20 participants. So get through the program.
So, you know, with these 20 people that you spoke about, what do they need in order for them to get into the program? Because you can't just have anybody just jump on it, you know. So it has to be
good question.
somebody with.
Yeah, really good question. So for me, as yeah, so remember, like, this idea started in June. We're in October now, so there hasn't been that much time before. Like most, I mean, I've had companies come to me for advice about, you know, trying to address, like, you know, lack of diversity in the company, and they've been, you know, planning things for ages. And I've set this up in like 4 months, which is quite a quick turnaround, and I'm grateful for being able to do that quick. But to address your question, so when I had this idea, my idea was basically, if you're black and you're interested in tech, we'll help you, but you have to be above the age of 18. And the reason around that is I wanted to not deal with, like, you know, safeguarding issues for people under the age of 18, because if you have people under the age of 18, then, because I'm giving potentially adults and, you know, access to them, then actually you need to safeguard those young people. And because it's just me at the moment, like, that's something that we might address in the future, but it's a lot of things that maybe I just don't have capacity to think about and put the system in place right now.
So I think me obviously knowing quite a lot about the program itself.
Yeah.
I also noticed the number of mentors that you have in the program, and as you said earlier, they are from all different backgrounds, but these are very skilled individuals, right? So for someone who, like yourself, who's mainly just been in the industry more from a sales point of view, what about you do you think attracted all these skilled people? Because if I'm wrong, I think there are about 50, maybe more than 50 mentors, very skilled people. So what about you attracted them, or what skill set do you think, or what qualities do you think that you have that's allowed that to be possible?
That's a really good question. I don't know. It's probably the simple answer, because but I could tell you what I've done that I think may have added to that. So for me, it was like, initially the vision was, okay, I need people with 2 or 3 years of experience to come on board. But like Edwin said, we've got people that are CEOs, founders, 10 years working in software engineer, like people from like Silicon Valley. So it's not, it's actually global. So like yeah, so it's been like, it's surpassed my expectation, which is good as well. Like, and that's a good problem to have. So like, I'm speaking to people that are literally like, we probably shouldn't be in the same room, but for some reason we're having a conversation about you coming on my program as a mentor. So for me, I think before I share maybe why I think that's a good idea, it's probably good to share a failure as well. So when I started this program, yeah, no one was getting on board. Like, no one was getting involved. I don't know if you've ever had that idea. If you're like, this idea is so good, why isn't anyone signing up? Like, I had this idea, and yeah, like I need to say this as well. So there's one of my friends that works for the same tech company as I do, white guy, really cool guy, and he basically like literally champions me. Like when I say something like, and you need people like that, really, like when you're feeling like, okay, I'm not really quite sure about this. Like, so from the like get go, it would be like, you know what, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like he was pushing, like and that was
so basically, he's your mentor, and you are
creating a mentorship
creating a mentorship
yeah,
program.
pretty much actually. And I probably wouldn't say like, yeah, I'm probably wouldn't say a mentor. I feel like because he's got a business that is growing, and we bounce it. Like I don't know if you've ever felt like you like the same way similar to my relationship with my friend Alex, where you've been to development, we just click with someone, but you're from different background. Like for example, like when I met my friend Alex, it's like someone from like Southeast London. I'm from like this skinny black kid from Birmingham, like and he, he's a big muscular guy as well. And, like so we're from
now he is, before he wasn't.
Yeah, but he got there as well, like so you're from different background, but there's something about the way you think that's similar. So this guy I'm talking about, like he went to like Oxford, he did a masters in like New York, like he's done like a presentation at the Saatchi Gallery. So like it's very skilled at what he does. Like it's like a UX UI designer specifically within tech, but it's probably like top of his field. But the way we think, like in terms like the way we see the world is quite similar. Even though we have like I went to US University, not Oxford, like like so we have different background. But it was important for me to see someone like him because interestingly as well, and this is probably important for what we're talking about, like the way why black people need like more black people in IN's job. Most of his friends are founders as well.
Okay.
Most of his friends have their own business. Most of his friends like so for him like starting an idea wasn't a big deal. It was just like, why are you not doing this? This is a great idea, I'll follow it up. Because everyone else around him does their own thing and they're creating like revenue, not like making 1K a month, like good revenue. So speaking to someone like him, then I start to see like it was possible, and he was very open to me about his business as well. Oh wow, you're doing that, like, and we've known each other for over 2 years now, and I've seen where he went from just an idea to where he is now. So yeah, so back to your point, sorry, around why do I think these people are attracted to me? I'm not really sure, if I'm honest. But what I think I did well was attracting people. So initially, like when I had the idea and I was struggling to like get people on board, I think there was one night that I created like a type form which just allowed people to fill in like their interest, right? I put it on Twitter, like no one replied, no one said anything oh, I had this mentoring program, like if people are interested they should sign up or whatever. I tried to use some influencers, people, in fairness, like nah, you know what, like I'm not some people did, some people didn't tweet it or whatnot, and I didn't really have a lot of following or whatnot. But there was this night, literally, I remember this night to this day. Like I think I was on my then girlfriend, she's now my fiance. I was at the house and like it was like 1 a.m. and I was just like, you know what, like God, like this is a good idea. Why is no one liking this? And I couldn't sleep, like because it was like this idea was so important to me. I feel like I wanted to like really do something big with this idea, but no one's getting on board. And at 1 a.m. I looked on Twitter. Actually, probably a bad idea, but just flicking to Twitter, and I saw a guy that just said, random guy that just said, oh, we need more black people in tech. And I just put the link to my people sign up for my program on that. And then next thing, literally like and then he liked it and retweeted it. And literally like my type form people just filling it in, like literally. So now I have a lot of mentees like that wanted to so now all I had to do was tell the mentors that I've got a lot of black people that want to get in tech, but they don't have anyone to mentor them, and it was easier. So I get one mentor on board. He tell his friend, get 2 mentors. 2 tell his friend, get 4. Like, and before you know it, like Edmund said, we've got over 50 people signed up. Like, like quite top up. But that initial tweet, like literally, like help like create the idea really.
I want you to
just-
describe. Sorry, I want you to describe that feeling. Because it's like you got over that hurdle now.
Yeah.
Something is happening.
Yeah.
I want you to describe that. How did you feel?
Yeah, incredible. Like I think so there's something that you could have a great idea if the market doesn't want it. It's a useless idea. At that point, I didn't know what the market needed was what offering. But then I knew there was a demand. Like literally, everyone, like people feeling it on the speed. Like, okay, there's a demand for this now. And then actually, I need to share this as well. I started reading the application, like why they wanted this. So the question I asked, like, what's your name, email, age, why do you want a mentor? Why would you benefit from a mentor? And people were saying, I read one person saying, I remember it quite clearly, like, I want to end like, poverty in my family. I feel like this would be a great opportunity. Now I can't sleep on the idea. Like reading stuff like that was too powerful for me not to work hard and make it a reality. So like, I've got people on board. I've got their reason for wanting to join the program. I see why my program will solve whatever problem they have in their life. So for me now, it's just like, before it was an idea, like, but now it's an idea that people like could potentially change people's life. So I had to like, work hard, literally like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, sometimes weekend, work on this thing.
Just a question I wanted to ask, but I think you might have answered it. Just to go back, when Eddy asked you what attracted a lot of mentors to join your program, you spoke about earlier on that what happened to America, it made you feel pain, and you felt like you had to do something to make a change. Do you think that also these mentors probably join the program because they feel like they want to make a change because what you're doing is for a good cause?
100%. And I think like the right idea at the right time goes a long way. I had the right idea and it was the right time. So not only is a pain that black people saw, but for maybe white people that, like I said, the experience wasn't real. Before these things were happening, but no one was like recording on social media. Everyone saw it around the world. So like as a white person, then you couldn't just ignore. You couldn't ignore that. You wanted to be hopefully part of that change and address that issue. So like I think it was the right idea at the right time.
So I think something that is also important is character, because I've known you for a long time. So I think personally, that's one of the things that's helped in this aspect. I think it comes down to character. It comes down to the confidence level that you have, because I get into those meetings with you and I'm like, is that really Leke talking to these highly skilled people? Do you go what I mean? So I think that's, for me, I think that's probably one of the things that I would say that's the qualities, some of the qualities at least that allows you to be able to deal with that. Now, just before I ask my next question, actually, at the point when you saw that tweet and the guy, he retweeted it and so on, how did, like, what did you learn at that point in time? Like when you saw that, okay, I can see things moving. What did you learn from just that few minutes of going onto Twitter?
I think that's a really good question as well. Like there's probably a few things. I'm a person of faith. Like, that night I said a prayer as well, like, God help me with this idea. So for me, there's probably an aspect of like God answering my prayer.
Definitely.
The second one is around like the power of influence. The guy had influence on Twitter, and for whatever reason, wherever I said to reply to his tweet, like caught his attention. I didn't know him. I don't even think I follow him now, but and then his influence attracted people, like, because on his, people have their bios on Twitter, like he's a tech guy, and black Twitter is a big thing as well. So I think it's faith and then like power of influence and getting the right people, to like, you could have a great idea, but without the right people kind of like supporting that idea and helping you push it, really, it probably just stays an idea, really.
Because I always say success comes when preparation meets opportunity. So in your case, I think that was what it was. I mean, you've gone through all that process, all that stages, and when the right opportunity came, you literally jumped on it and then made something happen. I think that's really, really, really good.
And just so I don't depend, but Edwin asked, obviously you can have a good idea, but I think they also go in hand with character. How do you develop this character because confidence is a big thing, you know. Confidence is, there's a lot of people that have good ideas, but they don't have that confidence. How do you develop the confidence to be the man you are?
That's a really good question. You guys are flattering me. But I think that's really kind of Edwin to say. Like, it's interesting that you people pick up confidence like as my strongest like character now, but I haven't always been confident.
Wow.
Like I haven't, like like literally I was this person that didn't want to speak in public. I'm still aware, but it gets better of like my accent. Maybe I say something funny or things like that. But like I guess it's putting yourself in situations that I learned to quite early on. Like I think one of the biggest thing about me as well, maybe I stopped caring what people think. Like yeah, so like Eddy would probably say left piece. Thanks for leaving this bit out. Like at university, for example, I used to wear like red skinny jeans. Like
I wanted to bring it up. But
red skinny jeans.
yeah.
Go on.
I'm happy you brought it up.
Nah, I like I was hanging around with someone like Eddy, my friend Alex, like these were like the Southeast London guys, I read skinny jeans like a Air Force One, like not even Air Force One, like a white trainer. So like I was like I think for me actually like fashion was a good way for me to kind of like just be myself and express myself. So like so I've always like, and I got to this stage where like because I was expressing myself in fashion, some people would like it, some people wouldn't, and that's it, and that's what fashion is. And the more like if everyone liked it, that means if everyone loved what you're wearing, then actually you look like everyone else. That's what that means. If people find it shocking, that means it's different to what they've seen before. So I got to express myself through fashion and style. So by the time I have ideas wherever like that, it became easier not to care. Obviously you still care, I'm human, don't worry, you still like care about what people think, but I think I care less about what people think.
So even in a way that's kind of psychology, because you're expressing yourself through another way other than speaking.
Yeah.
Right? So you're expressing yourself through your fashion. You're basically putting on a statement that this is what I look like, this is what I want to wear. I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because you have to think about this here. Let me paint the picture for you. So you understand the confidence that this guy had to be walking around like that. This is when skinny jeans first came out. I'm talking maybe like a year or two in. So people were still not with the idea of skinny jeans, not slim fitted, skinny jeans. So obviously he's a bit slim and tall as well. So imagine you just seeing legs and then this bright red tight skinny jeans and he's walking around campus, but we're seeing him and we're all laughing, but he's enjoying it, but he's just like whatever, innit? Do you know what I mean? So he's going along with it anyway. It didn't take long for him to stop wearing the skinny jeans, the red skinny jeans, but at least he tried that. Do you know what I mean? I think that's that confidence. And I think something that I've learned personally also is, you've explained your entire journey to when you've created Black Valley, and I think sometimes when you're going through certain things, people like you don't understand it, and sometimes that's off-putting. But in reality, what you find is those things that you're going through eventually lead you to, it results to something. But because at that point in time you're not realizing it results to something, you're just like, what the hell is this? What's all this? But when you take your time and you actually accept it and you respect the process, when that point comes, you go, oh,
this is why.
That's why I was doing, that's why this happened to me. That's why that happened to me.
And so Black Valley, with you, like where he is now, I'm so grateful. Like in terms of like imagining where the idea was like in June and where he is now, like the people that got on board. We even had our first sponsorship, like so before like I was putting my own money in, like, but it wasn't a lot of money, but it was still like self-funded. But like right now it's funding itself, and potentially it will start paying me a salary by the end of this month, which is incredible, right? And it's in like a short amount of time, and but the beautiful thing is about the journey and appreciating the journey. So two things happened in my life that I think, a lot of things, but two key things I could point out before Black Valley. So I was made redundant in my that role that I told you about, and I worked for a tech company. This tech company, again, really cool company, like they actually our first sponsorship for Black Valley, but they needed to go a different direction. So my role was like forward-facing sales role, so I would go into schools and sell stuff, but they wanted to like automate stuff, which means my role became redundant. So I was made redundant my role in May during coronavirus, like which is like the hardest period to make, So I guess the reason I brought that up is like, definitely things happen, like goes wrong, but whatever, like there's something better coming up. And so for me, like Black Valley is not just an idea that I feel passionate about. Like it's every journey I've had in life so far, I kind of like just led to this point where like I developed skills, my character, like he said, like, and you know, like in my job before, literally, like I work from home, so I would like, you know, speak to people like teachers, ed teachers over the phone, things like that. I would do training over like my laptop. So when it comes to Black Valley, and I'm like, you know, chatting to a founder from like, you know, California, like it didn't feel that much different from what I was doing before. It just happened that it was in my own time and my own business, because yes, I wasn't speaking to maybe people like that before, but the shift wasn't that big. It wasn't that much of a jump. Like I was doing that in my day job anyway. It just means now, like I'm using this. I use the same system, like you know, to book calendar. Like so, everything kind of like just like was very transferable to what I'm doing now.
Yes.
So would you say then now, as it is, as it stands, you as Black Valley stands, you do have like a set of companies now that you're working hand to hand with, I mean tech companies that you're working hand to hand with. Therefore, so for instance, if a person like me wants to join, as soon as I have finished whatever program that you guys do, yeah, I will be transferred onto these companies, or how is the process like?
Really good question. So the aim of Black Valley, and we're still like, I think I need to be very clear and open that I'm still developing it as an idea. We just have like, this was our pilot program, so there'll be a lot of learnings from this in terms of like what went well, and I was very like keen not to make sure like I get it right. Like remember what I said around being a mentor for a while, and some mentoring program are great, some are not so good. I've had good experience as a mentor, I've had bad experience as a mentor before, so I wanted to design something that wasn't just like a gimmick, so it wasn't like, oh, you design this thing and it's over, right? So I want to make sure I get the process right. So currently, what we have in place, but we're gonna have like evaluation like in November and December before our next cohort in January, where we're gonna like double the amount of people going on the program. So currently, what we have in place is they go through the 8-week program, they get a certificate, and we're using biochain technology. You know, that means like, so no one can say they've been to Black Valley, and yeah, they haven't, because we have biochain technology in place. They finish the program. There's 3 options. So one is direction. So we're like, okay, cool. Now we think you should go down this way in terms of like what you should follow in tech. There's potentially internship and paid opportunities. So right now I'm actually, like you said, in conversations with different companies. Remember before was an idea. Now I've got something more concrete to go to them. We actually, and we've got like really good case study as well now. For example, we have 3 founders, Black founders going through our program, that we've been able to hopefully, well, through Black Valley, the idea developed further. So that would be a good case study. We have 2 young Black ladies that are developers in our program, and they're going to be launching an app through the App Store, hopefully before the end of the program. So that's a good case study. So all these things mean like when I go to companies, it's like, okay, I've got like a mentoring program. Actually, we designed this mentoring program, look at the outcome of what people are doing. And I guess there's loads of opportunities. So like what you said, for example, actually it might not be that simple. It might be actually we charge these companies to access the talent within. So I need to explore all those options. But the key thing, like I think that I've always been quite keen on, is like the passion stays the focus. So it's not about the money. I want to be rich, don't get me wrong, but the passion is the focus. Like stay focused on the mission. The mission is to like literally to be the biggest tech platform for Black people that supports Black people. And like, so for me, it's better to just stay focused on that. If you're good and you want to be a mentor in a program, you believe in Black people, we'll get you on board. If you're a Black person and you want to get into tech, we'll get you some mentoring. Just like, so I'm just staying focused on those 2 things, and then I'll organically develop into something greater.
Just to add on to something about your program, are you also looking to kind of, because of say people can go through the mentor program, are you, because in this country experience is a vital thing, are you also looking to kind of creating some sort of experience, because someone could go through, or are you going to offer that within your program, or are you thinking to offer some sort of experience? Because in this country people could go through the program but without experience. Like myself, obviously I studied ITC, qualified, but no experience, no job, because that's the language we speak here. How are you looking to handle that into your program?
Really, really good question. So I'll kind of like give you the outlay of the program. So I think that will hopefully give you a bit clearer idea. So there's like every week there's something happening. Week 1 is more about like just like getting to understand each other's background. So I'm getting to know you as a mentor about what your skill set is. Then you have week 2 and week 3, which is a technical week. So if you're a UX UI designer, you're actually learning about UX UI designer with your mentor that week. Then we have week 4 where we do some workshops around careers and networking. Then week 5, week 6, week 7, you're learning a bit more. So on the channel, we're using Slack as a community now, so we're growing through Slack. There's resources constantly being shared. So the simple answer to your question is they're being exposed, but in the bigger plan, week 6 onwards, actually people that are capable, because remember we're getting people with different skill level, we want to get them onto like practical project. So we might go to a company again, which companies are looking to solve different business challenges for them. Like, you know what? You have a business challenge, bring it to us. We have, because right now, like when it comes to skill set, even Black Valley, I haven't had to pay for anything to develop Black Valley, because when it comes to website, we have UX UI designer within our business. When it comes to developing the site, I have developers. So like when it comes to like managing the products, our product managers, right? We just bring them together. So what we can expose business to then is to solve business challenges. Like our cohort could work in those different areas. So if you say as a business, I need to increase the user experience for my company in this area, we could say we've got all those people, give us that project, give us 4 weeks and we'll come to the solution for you. And then our cohort will get like a practical experience. But that's difficult now for the first cohort because no one knows who Black Valley is. But now that we have those case studies, by November and December, by the time we go to January, it will be a better experience for the cohort as well.
It's good. So my question to you now is, you mentioned your mission is to become, the biggest.
Yeah.
So, let's say in 5 years' time.
Not mission, like I think that because then that's your vision.
Your vision, right? Okay. Yeah. So in 5 years' time, where do you see Black Valley?
Ooh, really good question. So Black Valley, as the name suggests, is a play on Silicon Valley. When you think about Silicon Valley, you think about tech, you think about wealth creation, you think about a space. It's like the way I picture it, like Silicon Valley is basically a space. Like imagine going to a cafe and you have like a developer, an investor, someone that could develop your site, someone that if you're a founder, you could share your company. Literally within that space, all the skill set that you need to make your company a reality, you get within the space. And they say your network is your network, right? Yeah. So Black Valley, as in, I want it to be literally that for Black people, like a space, an environment where if you have an idea, if you're looking to get into the industry, you could literally, by being in that space alone, you're exposed to different people that could take you to the next level. Like right now, our mentees are, in week 5, we have like a networking event where they could like connect with 3 other mentors away from their mentor. Like within our network currently, we are like investors, we have founders, we have developers, we have people that charge, 200, 300 pounds per hour for you to have a conversation with them. And, our mentees could reach out to them for free. So like, and all those things, like, you talk about what, maybe what I think about, why Black Valley's got this far. It's because of those people. It's not necessarily me. It's because those people have given me ideas as well about, can you try this? Have you done this? They will introduce me to this person. And that's the most powerful thing. And actually, that's why Black Valley is needed, because currently, especially within the UK, actually, even though Black Valley is global, there isn't really that supportive environment for Black tech, or that could take you somewhere. And I think maybe luckily as well, because Black Valley is like remote, it's online. The scope for it to grow is really big. Like you don't have to come to a physical space, right? You could be like, we've got a mentee on our program who's from Nigeria. And he will dive in, like, I'll try and speak to him every now and then, like, you have network, problem or whatnot. But it's great that someone like him could connect to the program and still be exposed. Now, his experience might not be exactly the same as someone based in the UK, because there's culture that you have to deal with as well. For example, Nigeria is very like respectful culture. So when he's speaking to his mentor, like, it's not really flowing because he's got that respect thing around. Whilst in the UK, it doesn't matter if you're my boss. I'm telling you, what's going on, like, and he's obviously understanding that. But I guess so it's just this platform that really just supports you, really allows you to thrive, and that's powerful. Because again, not to get too political, I think about the Jewish culture, and I think about, okay, so Jewish people were disadvantaged, right? And you look at them, but right now it's difficult for you to say anything negative, anything anti-Semitism about, you would be, your platform will be destroyed, like, because they're very powerful, because they own everything, right?
But you see, the problem I have is, it's all about being together in it. So if black people are not together, then these things will never happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like we say that a lot, but we haven't been allowed to be together.
Can I just to throw in like a spanner in the works here? So you said, you know, we haven't been allowed to be together. Something that I've been thinking about recently, and if the statistics is right, black people in the UK only make 4% of the population.
Yeah.
So if we only make 4% of the population, surely in tech, you'd probably only expect almost an insignificant amount of us in tech. So when you say, you know, we haven't been allowed to be together, is that really the case, or is it the fact that there are actually a small number of us?
So when I get the statistic earlier about 4%, I said in relation to the workforce. So that,
Yeah, but as in like even in the UK, I'm talking about like black people only make up 4% of the population.
Yeah.
So if we then talk industry per industry,
Yeah.
the tech industry is one industry. So how much percentage of
Can
the
we-
black of the black population do you expect to see in there? Because we're not all gonna be skilled, or we're not all educated to that level, or
Yeah.
to,
But
to be able to get
it's
into this.
still like relational. So if 4% of maybe the workforce, so for example, you have white people as a 100%, right? Community, like working in different space. So in this tech space, if they're dominant, right, it means that black people, in relation to the amount of black people in the UK, is not being represented. So it's about representation.
Right,
So
okay.
let's say there's 100 people black, 200 people white, and then you have a space, and out of those space you have 180 white people. Then that's something that you're not represented in relation to the population.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what we're trying to say, especially for an environment like tech, where you're creating jobs, you're like tech now, you know, look at like, you know, even with like everything that we're talking about, like COVID, for example, you've got the NHS app or whatever, you know, it's your data, it's your information. If someone, like for example, then you guys, you know, recall what happened recently where GCSE results, there was some messing about because when the result came out, it kind of like knocked people down from a, like, do you think, like, for example, if someone that was designing that stuff was from like a very low achieving background, they wouldn't have fought against it?
No.
They would have fought against it. So if we're not careful as black people, we're talking about racism now, we're talking about stereotype now. The racism and stereotype of the future will be data. You know, a data which says, you know, you look this way, you act this way, you can't get in. You know, you look this, like, obviously we experience that now physically, but when it comes like, oh, it's the tech, it's the data, but so it's an important space for us to be in. Like, we have to fight to be there, otherwise we're going to struggle.
I think there is a system like that already in America. I remember watching a program where
In Channel 4.
it was basically about how the police basically use like some sort of
AI.
data to to basically find out when is the best time to go and police this particular neighborhood in it, you know, because that's when crime occurs the most, you know what I mean? So I think this that you're talking about is already a system,
Definitely.
just that maybe it's not common to the common me and you or whatever until this GCSE thing came out, and now you cannot, you know.
I think the path, well, like the thing is that, well, I personally, I don't think tech is bad, I don't think AI is bad, I don't think, like, but like with all these things, like there's someone responsible for creating it, and we all have our biases. Like I said before, like we are based on the way we grow up. So if this person doesn't understand what it's like to grow up poor, there's a question they love to ask, you know, politicians in the UK, which is how much does a pint of milk cost? The reason they ask that question is because they don't care about how much a pint of milk costs. It's because they want the politician to be able to relate to the average person. Like if you're a prime minister, you don't go to the shop and buy the milk yourself,
no idea how much.
but you should be able to know what your people are going through. So if you're designing data that serves people, like tech serves everyone, right? You need to understand as a black person how do you relate to that data. For example, like I think in South Africa recently, there was, you know, a black guy, I think it was a restaurant actually, went to the toilet, did his thing, and then he went to like wash his hand, and he wouldn't release like soap or water, and the white person came, he released soap and water, but you know why?
Because of the covered skin.
Yeah, it didn't detect his, like, it didn't detect
It's
his,
pigment.
it's pigment on the skin.
Yeah.
So when they were testing this thing, they didn't test it on the on a black person. So it's little stuff like that, but it's because, like, you know, if everyone working in that, like when you create a product, right, you test it on people, you know, that are close to you, that you understand. So this is why this thing is powerful, that we need to we need to be in that space,
Yeah.
like 100%.
Just my question. I want to keep it. Obviously, let's go back to Black Valley, right?
Yeah.
For you to hold a project like that, it comes with belief. You gotta believe in yourself.
Yeah.
But I understand we can all have that desire of believing in ourselves. But for you to maintain it on a daily basis, because you would argue with me that there's a lot of elements that can happen around you, family, sickness, and can kind of disrupt you. How do you hold that belief? And my next question: are you looking to expand this project back to Africa, like where you come from in Nigeria?
Really good question. So two sets. One is maintaining belief, and one is like expansion. So around maintaining belief, I think I'm a driven person naturally. Like and I've been lucky as well, like I said, to have people around me that maybe believe in the idea more than I do when I don't believe in it as well. Like, which is important. So like I've told my friend, you know, and there's another person I work with. Actually, I'll mention the name. Like the white friend I was talking about. His name is Xander. Like, you know, he's like literally like messaged me like, oh, what's going on this week? Like, what were you doing? And there's another guy that work Simon works for the company I used to work for. Like, he's been sending me, like, he will see a link, he will send it to me this week. He will see somebody else send it this week. So I guess like the simple answer to that, like, no one's an island. Like, if anyone tells you that, then I don't know, like they're not telling you the whole picture. No one's an island. Like, so I'm the face of Black Valley, but I don't make Black Valley happen. Like, you know, I've, you know, people like Eddy, you know, that really helps and that keeps you motivated. So for me, when I've started a company by myself, like I've got like 50 people championing me on. Like, you know, I've got people that I could rely on. I've got more than 50 people actually, like my mentors, my friends, family, fiance. Like, so that's the first aspect of your question. The second one about expansion, definitely, like, you know, but because it's remote as well, there's no barrier to access.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping someone from Africa from applying now. We have no, we're not saying like there's nothing stopping you. The only difficulty that we need to think about is because everything we do is online, and you know, probably a lot of data to access. Like, you know, we have like a lot of workshops that's taking place on Zoom currently. So, you know, those things cost a lot. I went to Nigeria and like, you know, the access is there, but you need to have a certain level of wealth to really. So I guess if we were to expand to Africa a bit more in future, we need to think about how to make it more accessible. Because for me, like, I want to, like, if you're, you know, a young African kid and you're grew up in a mud house, you know, like, and you're interested in tech, I want to make sure we give you everything like we can to make sure like you could be the next Steve Jobs or whatever. Like, I was reading a book about Steve Jobs recently. What's the book? I think it's Outliers. I know if you guys read the book Outliers. So Outliers talk about, you know, what makes like successful people successful, right? And it talks about, you know, people like, you know, that we see as outliers. You know, someone like the Microsoft guy, Bill Gates. But Bill Gates, yeah, you know, he's a very intelligent guy, but he was at the right place at the right time. So Bill Gates went to like a very tech school in America, and according to the book, I haven't done my, but someone put in the book if it's not true. He went to a tech school in America. When he was about 15 or 16, it happens that the first computer ever released, like back then, like I think there was a few computers back then, because it was like a private school. The parents of the kids at that school, they actually positioned like the, you know, the head of the school that they want a computer at the school. So this guy was exposed to computer before any other kid. And then when he went to university as well, it was like so back then when you at university, according to the book, you have like times, like most university have like, you know, a limited time you could spend on computer. But the university that he went to, for some reason, the building was never locked, so he had unlimited access, which means he had more time training. So all these things gives you advantage, like, you know, I spoke earlier about the right time, right opportunity. So the kid in Africa, the reason I mentioned that, for example, like, no matter how much how passionate he is, no matter how good he is, if he's learning stuff on textbook, it's not necessarily going to be as good as someone that's able to actually practice practically every day. And like, you know, that data is, you know, it's like, it's really good, like it's good that he has to maybe like buy data for like, I don't know, like a bit of money to like spend 30 minutes. So it's about actually like, you know, the bigger picture, the bigger vision is making sure that kid get the same amount of practice, and we remove the barrier that's stopping him from being as good as, you know.
The value of your project is really, really good, and I think it's vital for any young child or any teenager that is growing up. Mentorship is a big thing. We all need it. We all need some sort of guidance. I was thinking maybe, are you thinking to kind of implement it to like school, to be kind of part of like education in that way?
Good question. I don't have a simple answer to that yet, because we need to like evaluate like how effective this first one goes first. and by that we need to, so evaluation process will be saying where do the people find out about us, and actually like my instinct would be a no, and why I say no is because I feel like there are currently system in place that, so for example your top like companies like your Google, your Microsoft, you know, they've got like access program already for like the top students in schools. So maybe where Black Valley comes into place, not necessarily that is for like maybe people that doesn't necessarily fit, which, you know, fit that stereotypical idea of like, okay, I was doing really well at school. Because what happens, people that do really well, there are this access program, there are these support programs in place, but you might miss, like, again, I look back at myself, the young Leke that wasn't so sure about himself, but you might miss him. And so for me, it's important to not to limit where people come from, and just, you know, I think as well, I like the idea of reimagining education. I think there's nothing wrong with us going to schools, but I think the current education system probably doesn't work the way it should work. So I think we'll be, you know, for me, it's important not to go back and go forward. So in this reimagining education process and what we're doing, actually, it doesn't matter if you didn't go to school, as long as you're passionate about this industry. It is practical. Yeah, but I won't say completely no yet, but I think it's an area that's less likely to focus on that. It might be one of the areas that we get people to show interest, but it wouldn't be our focus.
Okay. So say for instance, somebody from a less impoverished, like, you know, neighborhoods or wherever, wants to really get involved in such.
Yeah.
How do they find you? Because I guarantee you, there's a lot of people that are probably watching us right by now, and they would love to be involved. But where would they find you, and how would they find you? How would they find you? Say.
Good question. So we've got a website, just, you know, blackvalley.co.uk on the website, and the application is there for our January course. We've already had 29 people apply, and there's only 40 spaces. So I guess our biggest challenge is dealing with demand. But I want to scale at a good pace, because, you know, I want the program to be really, really good and effective. And because right now it's just me, so I need to make sure I'm able to understand what's working well. So by January, hopefully, we could even scale at a bigger pace and maybe look at bringing more people on board. We also have like social media, so yeah, like Instagram, it's called like Black Valley HQ. One thing that I'm looking to do as well is actually, because, you know, we do have a limited amount of people that can come in our program, how can we serve the community better? So what we do on Instagram, like, you know, on Friday we had like one of our mentors just talk about experience, about getting into like tech in a customer facing roles. The week before that we had someone talk about like product management in tech, how to get into that. So we're serving the community through that. So I guess even if you can't get on the program, like follow us on those social media handle and like see what we're talking about and get involved in those conversations.
Okay, so we'll wrap up there. Thank you very much again, Leke, for coming. If you want to get involved, check out blackvalley.co.uk. I believe you can access them also via LinkedIn and via Instagram, Black Valley HQ. So thank you very much again, and it's been an honor to have you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, it was fun. Thank you.